Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by female athletes and coaches for female athletes and coaches. We're here to amplify your voice because it deserves to be heard. At Peak, we empower female athletes and coaches with knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary in today's athletic environments to thrive. Join us for bold conversations about the experiences of female athletes. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, get frustrated, sometimes all at the same time, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, commuting, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you, follow us, check out our website, consider making a donation, and share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, I'm not going to spend any time introducing our next guest because you had the pleasure of listening to her on our last podcast. Sorry about that. On our last podcast, as she kind of went through her middle school and high school journey with running cross country. So I'm super excited to dive into her recruiting process and her collegiate experience. But before we do that, we definitely still need to get warmed up because we need to learn a little more about Mia. Mia, you ready to go?
So ready.
Awesome. Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Dog or cat?
Definitely dog.
Blow dry your hair or air dry your hair?
Air dry the natural curls.
Nice. Actually, Megan, you haven't answered this one. How about you?
Ooh, I'm going to have to copy her exact answer.
Nice. All right. Mia, summer or winter?
Summer.
Nice. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Nice. Megan, what about you? I haven't asked you that either.
I'm going to have to say Instagram too.
Nice. I don't even know what TikTok is. I thought it was a relevant question.
It is. Definitely.
It is. Thank you for humoring me. All right. So Mia, thank you so much for being candid and open on our last podcast. It's really important. And we are here to not just share our stories or your individual story, but we're here to make an impact for future generations. So the next person in line doesn't have to go through the same hiccups that we did. So I really want to just pause and really thank you for that because I know some of those conversations can be super challenging. So I really appreciate your ability to be both eloquent and candid.
Thank you. I really appreciate how comfortable you make this conversation for me to say those things.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I'm so excited that we're connected. I want to talk about, your recruiting process, but I think I alluded a little that we, had kind of met. We do live in the same area. I am in a different high school than Mia went to, but we were in the same conference. So I had the pleasure of getting to see her develop and grow and thrive over her 4 years at Warren High School. So it was such a pleasure. And then we really connected at a day at summer camp. I was coaching camp and she was there helping with some young aspiring athletes, and your openness and your kindness was so refreshing that I could not stop thinking, this is a remarkable woman. So do you remember that day we met?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'd just been done running hills with like 5-year-olds. It was awesome.
But she gets accosted by this woman. But it really, and I just knew from there that what I thought of you, like watching you throughout your high school experience, kind of that openness, you could really feel that. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So talk to us a little bit about your recruiting process. So we already talked about that your introduction to cross country may not have been as fast as others, but obviously, you were peaking at the right time. So fill us in on what some of that looked like.
Yeah. One thing I find so interesting and special about like running recruit rather than a different sport is really the only thing that like initially sparks a conversation is time. So it doesn't really matter like how long you've been trying to get recruited or like in the sport. They really look for like junior year, if you're racing well and healthy and are like a developed human being, they find that to stand out a lot. And thankfully for myself, junior year, I really started to take off. I was PRing by like upwards of 20 seconds per race, which was just like an insane dopamine addicting feeling. And I think that really initiated my recruiting process at the end of cross country season my junior year. And I am so, so grateful and like enthused by my recruiting process. I had a phone call with a new coach essentially every night for about 3 months. And it was just like overwhelming, but so like eye opening and like such a great experience to be a part of. But my recruiting process itself was kind of facilitated by a recruiting coach who reaches out to a lot of athletes in Northern Illinois. So he reached out to me and I started working with him, and I was really just like lost in the idea of recruiting. Like I really didn't know if I was going to run in college. At that point, I hadn't really known if like one season was enough to get me to run in college, but he reached out to coaches from like the number one ranked D1 programs to like some really small like D2 board to just like get me talking to coaches. And I think the best part of recruiting is just like being able to meet all these people involved with the sport you love and really like find the person that you really, really like and the program that you're looking for. So some things for me as I went on my conversations with all these coaches was I was really looking for a coach that wanted like to put effort into me as an individual as I was like fairly new to the sport and like saw my potential. If they gave in to me and like supported me in that way, I knew I would want to be part of a program that support me in that way. So I looked for like a coach that was like willing and really interested in me. And then also the girls are such an important part of like finding your team. Obviously that comes more into play like on your visits, but once you really connect with like the coach, it's time to see if like you connect with the girls. And for me, Georgetown was just like immediately I fell in love with all the girls on the team. And I really think like our dynamic is like no other. I talked to probably 15 schools on unofficial visits. So I met girls from all sorts of different locations and schools, but clicked like Georgetown did for me. And I really think that during the recruiting process, like this is your opportunity to use it and like find the people that are for you. It's such a privilege to be able to like talk to all of these schools and have someone interested in you. And you really need to like find what's right for you. And I really think I did there.
There's so much there. So we do have to pause because there was so much in there that I think that is going to be invaluable to high school and even current college athletes that are listening. So first of all, let me just kind of point out what I want you to kind of talk about. That you're the first person I've heard that's talked about a recruiting coach. So I want you to circle back and tell us a little bit about that. The other thing that I do want you to talk about, and I can remind you what these things are, is you're right. In running, the two things they're looking at are how fast are you and are you injury free? I do want you to spend a little time highlighting, circling back to what you talked about in the first episode, is the fact that you went through puberty in such a healthy way allowed you to be injury free. I mean, you do not hear that of high school athletes, high school runners very often. That is invaluable. So I do want you to kind of circle back with that. The other thing that I thought that you talked about that was so beautiful was a program that was interested in putting effort into you, because even coming in, similar to you coming in as a freshman in high school, coming in as a freshman in college, you are still super young in your running career. I mean, female runners don't blossom until so much later. And so the idea of putting effort and energy into something that is going to continue to grow was so beautiful to me. So can you tap back into a couple of those things?
Totally. So first, with the recruiting coach aspect, I feel, so if you are in the Northern Illinois, I'll shout him out. It's Andrew Novelli. He's really great with like reaching out to athletes and getting the journey started. But I think everyone is completely capable getting recruited on their own without a recruiting coach. I was
Okay.
just like very fresh of being recruited. And I mean, his business is great. Like his pitch is wonderful. He really does help the athlete get exposed to like a bunch of different schools. So I was working with Andrew Novelli, and essentially what he did is he sends like this mass email to these schools so that he selects for you. So you would like find a genre of school that you would be interested in, and then he sends out like a bunch of emails to all of these coaches, and it's kind of like a waiting game to see who responds. But there's like an athlete profile that gets set up for you, and I find it like very interesting. It's very like personalized to yourself. And once these coaches respond and find interest in you, it's really about building the relationship. So in order to build that relationship, I would be sitting on the phone with coaches like at least 4 times a week for like 30 minutes plus, talking about like me as an athlete, them as a person, like their values. And I think it's such an important thing to learn the values of the program that you're going into, because that's where you will be for 4 years. And obviously the transfer portal and the current state of that, it's like it's easy to get out, but at what cost? So I really think it's important to find a place that you know you will be happy. So that was kind of my like recruiting coach journey. I think it was great to be like exposed to all of these people. I built so many great relationships with coaches that like at meets to this day, like I'll like a different school's coach and like say hi to them because I've like formed such a great relationship with them over the recruitment process. But I think it's just like so important to favor like your values and what you're looking for and make those obvious throughout the process. And if they feed into those as well, it will be evident and you'll like find a good match. So for me, obviously, Georgetown is that. And I'm just like very, very grateful to be open to all of that. And then can you remind me of the few other things?
Yeah. So I'm going to circle back to the values thing. So the other thing, just the benefit of being injury free. I mean, benefit of being healthy throughout and healthy, not meaning a shape or a size, but healthy meaning you're eating enough to maintain, normal biological female function.
Yeah, I think for me, that was something coaches really, really found like an interest and benefit in throughout the recruiting process, because I mean, I've been about like 5'5", 5'6" since freshman year, which is fairly rare in like cross country because a lot of girls end up like growing later on. So I basically was like fully grown freshman year, and my team has never been overly intense in high school, which I'll get to when we talk about college, but I stayed fairly injury free throughout high school because of that. And I had like a very good manageable training plan, and coaches just found like coaches will feed into potential. And I think that's very important. Because if you have potential, like don't count yourself out at all. Like even if you're not going to NXN or something insane during high school, like you can still be the girl winning nationals. Like Parker Valvey, I know you've been posting about her a bit, but Parker Valvey wasn't really anything in high school, and now she is 0.2 seconds away from the Olympic standard and a 5-time national champ. So, I mean, really, it's a lot of putting yourself out there, recognizing your own potential. And once you do that, someone else will recognize your potential. So I just think like that as a whole is so important. And if you're lucky enough to be healthy throughout all of high school, it really was just like a great process for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you really think it's luck though, or do you think it's strategic? I mean, do you think that eating enough, sleeping enough, having a good support system with your family, having some other social outlets, do you think that played into it too, or do you really think it's all luck?
I would say luck in the sense that I'm lucky to have a great support system, but it's absolutely a lot of hard work to maintain that.
Yeah.
I thankfully have like always had a really good relationship with food. I'm a big food fan. I have a food account on Instagram. So really that's never been an issue for me. And I hadn't really been aware of that until I even came to school. And I think something interesting about like my process is that running with the boys, I never really had like thoughts about my body. I'd say like one positive of running with them. And I think
that's so true. That's a great point.
Yeah. I never had once thought about like my body. I didn't have anything to compare to because I'm running next to boys and we're completely different human beings. So I think that was like a very special part of my training with them. Like there were definitely hardships about like training with the boys rather than the girls, but I never had to think about my body. And I think that really, really helped me stay healthy throughout high school. And once again, that kind of plays into like my luck aspect is
Yeah.
the support system I had. But I think it is completely possible to get a group of girls with a similar support system. And that's something like we should carry on is recognizing like comparison is possible, but it's also possible to like completely get that out of the picture. And that's something that like I focus on and obviously run with like a great group of women, but my team is like overall it's very healthy, like D1 team. There are a lot of programs out there that are kind of known for being unhealthy, and mine specifically is kind of known for being so like open and accepting. And I've never really compared on my program, so I'm really just like grateful for the group that I found.
That's amazing. And that connects back to your values. So when you're when you're clear with your values and other people are clear with theirs, it helps solidify. Yeah, so talk about that. So now you're at Georgetown. You just completed your freshman year. Talk a little bit about what that looked like from both an academic and athletic and social perspective and what's going on this summer.
Yeah. So my freshman definitely like had its ups and downs. I just gone through like a pretty hard first semester, and I know we've just gone on about how I've been healthy all throughout high school. It's my first injury first semester this year, and that was just like a complete like from what I'd been used to with like consistent running and such. But thankfully it didn't come from an unhealthy place, which I'm very grateful for. But it was just like, it's hard to go from high school running to college running, especially when you're going, like I ran very low mileage in high school and I didn't really train that hard. I was just like, I'm to give myself some credit, I'm just a pretty good athlete. And I think in high school, like that's where it came from. But in college, it's a completely different game where everyone is a great athlete. And to get to be the best, you obviously have to train like so intensely. I went from about 25 miles a week in high school to about 45 in college. It was a healthy build, but my body just couldn't like maintain all of it with the big adjustment freshman year. And I've been doing a lot of work since then to get stronger. I've been lifting a lot, which I had never done in high school. So I think it's just a lot of factors that played into it, where freshman year is just a completely different, like your entire life changes in every aspect. And I think for like college athletes to recognize is that you're going to face so much change. Like every single aspect of your life is different other than yourself. And like all of this change and injury and any like hardship that comes out of it is probably and it's okay. And that's just something you have to adjust. So I'm like honestly grateful I did get injured freshman year, because now I know how to work through it if it were to come again. And like that was like some of the hardest time I've been through with like being removed from my team, being in a new state or district, I guess. But I'm just like very grateful that it came at the time it did and that became so much stronger because of it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Like, Megan, do you have anything you want to kind of fill in or add there?
I really agree with what you said about how you can kind of take, obviously it's a really hard time, an injury and just any health complications, but what you can learn from it and take into it for your future is just, I think, like unmatched. I think I've had my own fair share of experiences with certain health complications, and I think like in the moment you can kind of spiral a little bit, but if you take a step back and just reflect and still think about all the things that you can be grateful for and how you can use it to your advantage and be even better in the future, it's just, yeah, so I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we should actually, because I know Lily Flater, who's going to be rowing at Michigan State, talked about her injury. We should actually do a separate podcast at some point that talks about injuries, because again, we can kind of circle back to this, because Mia, one of the things that you talked about, which is one of the things we focus on at Peak, is the enrich piece. So REST is one of our acronyms, which stands for recover, enrich, sleep, and technology. And enrich means finding activities or value outside of sport, whether that's knitting or, having a cooking Instagram account like you were talking about, or, going to church, whatever that it is, but having something that fills you outside of sport. And I think that is even more important through injury. Do you have any reflection on that, Mia?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. This is kind of circling back to high school, but in high school, I was very involved. I was like academically pretty successful, and going into college, I knew I was going to like a very intense school, but I was kind of just like running. Like, I love running. I want to succeed in running. And that was kind of the first time that I like put all of my eggs in the running basket, which I hadn't done before, but I was just like so excited about it. And once that injury faced, I was like, shoot, now let's kind of rethink some things. And something like, I absolutely love where I go to school. I think Georgetown's in like such a perfect area for me because aside from running, you're in the capital. You have all of these great restaurants, which I thoroughly enjoy. You have the coolest people ever. So I really played into like every aspect of my life that wasn't running. And I found like a lot of academic success this year and discovered like a bunch of new passions and different areas of studies, which I didn't even like know were possible. So I think like as I was injured, I became a very like well-rounded and like much smarter person. And I think maybe not much more educated person. And I think being able to play into that and recognizing that like, yes, I go to Georgetown for running, but hey, I go to Georgetown, let's use every other resource that's available, really like opened my eyes. And now I'm just like in love with the school, in love with the people, in love with the program. Like, yes, running was gone for a bit and that was difficult, but I like now I'm just so grateful and like happy where I am. So it really opened my eyes to all of that.
Yeah, that is that's really good. And that's a really good synopsis that, not only, do you pick the school and the school picks you, but you are, obviously if, a Division I athlete is committing so much time and energy to sport. I don't want to downplay that, but you are there for other things. I mean, I think one of the things in today's athletic environment, particularly now with NIL and everything else, is that, money becomes, such the thing. And I am not saying that it's not important to figure out how to monetize off of sport, particularly for athletes and quite frankly, for coaches. I think people are under the impression that, collegiate coaches or even high school coaches are out there making, millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's a handful of people, right? The rest of us are like, barely trying to, put the lights on. But, kind of understanding, I don't want to take away from that, but one of the reasons college scholarships were there was so athletes could participate in all the benefits of the school. And I don't want to lose sight of that. I don't want to lose sight of there's so much opportunity on the campus. So I am so deliriously thrilled that you circled back to that because you're getting a huge education there with a ton of experience.
Yeah. I think one thing my team does that's so incredible and like totally stood out to me throughout the recruiting process is we are all like so well-rounded and like amazing. Like, I would be best friends with all of these girls if we had never like ran a minute in our entire lives. Like, our relationships are so much deeper and like well-rounded than just like running buddies. And don't get me wrong, like running buddies film are some sort of connection that's like absolutely unbeatable.
Sure.
But these girls are like, we recognize that we're full, powerful women outside of the sport, and our team like fully goes into that. Like, we live to be a well-rounded, like powerful, successful female rather than like a great runner. And I think that is something that I was just like so thrilled about during the recruiting process because no other school had this like, we're just friends, we're just girls, but then we also run on the side. Like, I just think it's amazing that I have two All-Americans as some of my best friends, and you didn't even know they were runners unless you came to practice every day. Like, it's amazing to me.
That is amazing. That is absolutely Incredible. It's such a fun time too, between obviously the track and field event from last weekend, and we've got the Olympic trials coming up. It's a great time to be a runner. There's so much fun out there to see. That's so awesome. Megan, do you have anything before we cool it down and sign off? Do you have anything that you want to ask Mia before I ask some really important questions?
I don't think I do. I did have a few questions, but she literally answered them like seconds later. So
Nice.
Thank you for sharing all of that. It sounds like you're having
Yeah.
a great experience, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, completely awesome. All right. Favorite pump me up song, Mia?
Ooh, I actually listened to this question in a podcast earlier today and was thinking how I go through phases of pump me up songs. So it really depends on the week, but I'll like hyperfixate. I'd say this week is like end to the song.
Love it. Okay. If talent were not an issue, what sport would you love to excel at?
I love tennis. I would love to be amazing at tennis.
I love that. Singles or doubles?
As my main, but I'd want like a best friend to play doubles with.
I love it. I think that might be, I normally pick two-man bobsled and ice skating, but I played tennis growing up.
Yeah.
Quite seriously, actually. And that's something I wish I was always better at too. As much time and energy as I put into it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mia, again, this is a really big time, but favorite female athlete right now?
I am so amazed at all the collegiate women right now, but I'm a huge fan. This is biased, obviously, because my teammates are also in this group, but Melissa Riggins and Maya Ramsden are just like
Nice.
amazing. And I love seeing like powerful, educated women succeeding in areas.
Amazing. Yeah, it's been super fun. It's all been fun to watch. All right. Best or worst advice a coach has ever given you?
This is my freshman year cross country coach. I like have this motto every single day race, but I repeat to myself, trust your training, trust yourself, trust the process. And that's just like running through my head on the start line, and it really gets me through.
I love that. What do you want to leave for our audience before we sign off?
I think I've left tidbits throughout it all, but I really am an advocate of surrounding yourself with the people that support you. Your best friends should be your biggest fans, and you should be their biggest fans. And if that's not the case, then you shouldn't have them as close as you do. So really focus on who's supporting you, and you will succeed as much as you want.
I'm crying. That was awesome. I think that's so true. That was so eloquently said. I love that. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks everybody who's listening for being here. And remember that Peak is more than a podcast. We're a community. We're educate and inspire and uplift. So if our episodes resonate with you, hit the follow button, share with your friends, join us on Instagram at Peak, Train Like a Girl. Check out our website. There's so much to explore there. And if you're feeling extra generous, consider supporting us because here at Peak, we're driven by passion